del amor. No hay nada más hermoso que este árbol. Arriba, arriba mis padres. Así son las historias de cómo crecí yo en Santa Teresita, ahí en los proyectos de Hormona Garden. Esas son las fiestas que nosotros tanto disfrutamos y gozamos un chingo. Vanidos, ya tienes el honor y la cultura como nosotros, arriba. Por eso me inculqué de darte los mismos costumbres que a mí me inculcaron y me enseñaron Vanidos. Esta es parte de mi pasado y por eso existe lo de jalisciense y lo mexicano de mí. Por eso fui a buscar a tu madre, a Tonaya, para poder seguir nuestras costumbres de nosotros. Y estas son nuestras fiestas de nosotros, mija. Te quiero un chingo, mija, y ojalá que sigas gozando mi video. Arriba, arriba, arriba el rollo, mija. ¡Ay! No te ganas. Naturalmente que mi historia comienza en los proyectos de Hormona Garden. Así nosotros jugábamos todos los días. Así nos mirábamos allí en esas oficinas jugando fútbol.
Mírame a los ojos, dime lo que ves, soñando despierta, nada que perder, vivo imaginando, quiero aterrizar, lo que estoy buscando, no supiste dar. Ya no queda nada, ya no queda nada, ya no queda nada.
answered the demands until he was physically unable to start tonight with two bad legs, the bad left hamstring and the swollen right knee. And with two out, you talk about a roll of the dice. This is it. If he hits the ball on the ground, I would imagine he would be running 50% to first base. So the Dodgers trying to catch lightning right now. Fouled away. He was, complaining about the fact that with the left knee bothering him, he can't push off. Well, now he can't push off and he can't land.
He's going to use all arms. Look at his crowd on his feet. What a tribute.
4-3 A's. 2 out, 9th inning. Not a bad opening act. Mike Davis, by the way, has stolen 7 out of 10. If you're wondering about Lasorda throwing the dice again.
He's standing on an outside corner. He's not going to give him a ball in the pull. With Davis, he just missed. But here's 2 quick strikes, both fastballs that kind of tail away the outside part. Hasse is not even flirted with the inside part of that play.
You saw Dave Duncan gesturing. He was gesturing to Carney Lansford at third. 0-2 to Gibson. The infield is back with 2 out and Davis at first. Now Gibson during the year, not necessarily in this spot, but he was a threat to bunt. No way tonight, no wheels.
They're plenty deep in the outfield, and a lot of them, they're playing him straight away in center field. Look at it, right down the line. He's a threat now with 2 strikes.
No balls, 2 strikes, 2 out. Little number foul. And it had to be an effort to run that far. Gibson was so banged up, he was not introduced. He did not come out onto the field before the game.
You can really see the limp. He's not driving that ball. It was by him. See, he's really he almost has to talk to his legs and say, hey, let's go, we got to get out of here.
It's one thing to favor one leg, but you can't favor 2.
No way, and that's what he's trying to do. He really is.
0-2 to Gibson. 0-1. And a throw down to first. Davis just can't get back. Good play by Ron Hasse using Gibson as a screen. He took a shot at the runner, and Mike Davis didn't see it for that split second, and that made it close.
A lot of times what you do, you'll give a sign to the first baseman, say, now be there. They call it now be there play. If I get the ball, I'm going to throw it. 14 fastballs in a row. That's all he's been throwing.
There goes Davis, and it's fouled away. So Mike Davis, who had stolen 7 out of 10 and carrying the tying run, was on the move.
They wanted to get Gibson a good shot at it with 2 strikes, but with the 2 strikes, Davis a threat, as we said, because the Blue Pin will score that big run.
Gibson shaking his left leg, making it quiver like a horse trying to get rid of a troublesome fly. 2-2. Mike Scioscia can only sit now and sweat it out. He led off the inning and popped up. Tony La Russa is 1 out away from win number 1.
Here's the big pitch. He's got to make it happen on this one.
2 balls and 2 strikes with 2 out.
Those extra steps that Davis will get if the count goes to 3-2 are very big. So Hasse and Eckersley want that pitch of decision right here.
There he goes, way outside. He's stolen it.
Hasse started throwing, kind of bumped Gibson. Gibson, but it was way too late. Davis was way down there, almost as if he could have walked in. Not a bad pitch to handle for Hasse outside. Now watch when he starts to throw. Look at Gibson. And Harvey says, no, he had the base stolen.
So Mike Davis, the tying run, is at second base with 2 out. Now the Dodgers don't need the muscle of Gibson as much as a base hit. And on deck is the leadoff man, Steve Sax. 3-2. Sax waiting on deck. The game right now is at the plate. High fly ball into right field. She is gone. In a year that has been so improbable, the impossible has happened. And now the only question was, could he make it around the base paths unassisted?
I'll tell you, there are those who say that it's what happens after the base on balls, but it's the base on balls that makes it so bad. A home run would have tied it, but the walk gives him the...
Good evening, I'm Catherine Curran. A strong earthquake rocked the San Francisco Bay Area just moments ago.
6.9 is what we're hearing. Big enough to bring cities in Northern California to their knees.
In 1989, the Loma Prieta earthquake sent a deadly shockwave across Northern California. And from the earthquake's opening jolt, which came during a live broadcast of the World Series, to coverage of the grisly aftermath, Loma Prieta became a national television event.
And this was the most watched earthquake and probably one of the most watched natural disasters in American history.
The earthquake left 63 people dead, caused as much as $10 billion in damage, and touched off a national conversation about seismic readiness. And not just for California.
Of course, California is not the only state subject to earthquakes. Take a look at this map of the United States and the earthquake zones.
The San Francisco quake demonstrates that you could never prepare enough.
But a quarter century later, how much preparing really happened after the panic died down?
This was a wake-up call, but I think a lot of people have gone back to sleep.
For the Giants, one of the most spectacular vistas on this continent.
It was a fabulous October day. The weather was spectacular. The whole city was excited.
The Battle of the Bay continued.
Just after 5 p.m. on October 17, 1989, baseball fans across the country tuned in to see the San Francisco Giants face the Oakland A's in a broadcast that would soon go down in television history.
The Oakland A's
We were just driving into the parking lot at Candlestick Park when we felt the earthquake. There was a state of confusion.
All of a sudden it hit. I didn't know where I was for 5 seconds. I still feel like throwing up right now.
The game will be postponed after leave in an orderly fashion.
Police officers came to me and said, Mr. Mayor, we've got to take you to the command post downtown because the Bay Bridge has fallen in. There on television were scenes from helicopters showing the upper deck had fallen into the lower deck.
The shaking registered a magnitude 6.9, the biggest quake the Bay Area had seen since the Great San Francisco earthquake of 1906.
Shut off the gas, shut off electricity, store water.
Coverage of the Bay Bridge collapse, fires in San Francisco's Marina District, and a collapsed viaduct along Oakland's 880 freeway dominated newscasts for days. Out of the 63 people killed in the quake, 42 died after the elevated section of roadway fell down.
I don't know how the hell we're going to get them out, okay? We have one woman who's unconscious bleeding from the head.
The earthquake took its name from Loma Prieta Mountain, about 60 miles south of San Francisco, where scientists pinpointed the event's epicenter. Nearby towns in Santa Cruz County saw 16,000 homes and businesses damaged or destroyed in the quake, far more than in San Francisco.
Most of the people who died in older buildings.
As the full extent of the damage became clear, coverage soon turned to how to fortify structures against future quakes.
Officials can only hope to reinforce the ones still standing and rebuild the ones destroyed with stricter standards before another major earthquake hits.
And this question keeps coming up after every earthquake. They have a huge inventory of these old buildings that we're trying to strengthen. It's costly, it's very political, and there's very large social and economic costs that we have to bear.
In California, the message largely got through. Authorities there have made efforts to boost seismic readiness after nearly
Where we grow up. Well, everybody in the projects. Break time, little. That's what my jail fencing for that. And this is our house right here. Trustee, rest in peace. There's trustees. This is our house. This is our house. And this is our holy grail right here. Our holy grail. That's so beauty being born and raised here. A lot of people don't even know. Ahorita, back then it was Johnny Piston, right? Now we got gang here. But you see, you haven't seen that. Larry used to live right here. This Cruzado is on both Awesome Street. Awesome Street. This is our workaround here. Ponte aquí enfrente.
southbound 14, as you can see here, has actually collapsed and pancaked on top of the northbound lanes of the Golden State Freeway. With me here is Phil Wyrider, who is a spokesperson for the fire department in Los Angeles. We're looking at about a span of a quarter mile of the southbound 14 connected to the southbound 5, which has collapsed. About 5 or 6 vehicles involved in this area. We do not know if there's any vehicles underneath the connector road bridge area because we can't get underneath there. We did have the 2 critical patients, and then we also have a report of 1 female adult that was, from some witnesses saying that she was pregnant. She was also airlifted out of the area, but by what agency, I'm not sure. This is I-5, one of the main freeways in all of California. Can you imagine what it would have been like in that truck, or in that Winnebago-style vehicle, with the freeway literally blocked away on both sides? Show you in 30 seconds. It bends this collapses. So, well, it probably only took 1 or 2 seconds. Now, is it a matter of design or is it a matter of the construction? Well, I don't think you'd find any so-called construction error in there. It's probably built in exactly the same way it's detailed on the drawing. Drive around is hardly of course, but you have an apartment collapse onto a parking lot. You didn't happen. Breakup. The crew wouldn't be found until March 1986. Off the Florida coast, two divers came across the crew cabin on the seabed approximately 100 feet below the surface. It was a wreck of twisted metal and wires, and the divers didn't know what they found until they saw a spacesuit bobbing in the water. Between the crash and the time spent underwater, their remains weren't in good shape, having at times to be removed in parts. First, Judy Resnick was recovered, followed by Krista McCullum. After this, it was determined that the jagged, jumbled cabin would have to be raised from the ocean in order to continue. As the crane pulled the cabin to the ship, a splash of blue appeared on the surface. It was the jump-suited body of Gregory Jarvis, which had become free as the cabin was raised. 1986, the Space Shuttle Challenger took to the skies for a brief 73 seconds before a fiery demise. Here's what happened, minute by minute. Leading up to the Challenger disaster, most people thought it perfectly reasonable to think of the space shuttle like an airplane. Reusable, reliable, comfortable, and safe.
I think it's going to be very exciting for kids to be able to turn on the TV and see the faces for everybody.
But there was a massive problem with risk analysis. A 3-volume study, first published in 1979, estimated that the chances of a shuttle breaking up on launch, exactly like Challenger did, were between 1 in 1,000 and 1 in 10,000. The weakest point? Solid fuel rocket boosters. Fast forward to 1983, and another study suggested the risk of a shuttle breakup was closer to 1 in 100. After the Challenger disaster, physicist Richard P. Feynman explained, the higher figures, 1 in 100, come from working engineers, and the very low figures, 1 in 100,000, from management. The Challenger accident resulted in the establishment of a program that would collect data, including flight and test data, for risk assessment, which was something new. Before the tragedy, NASA didn't think it was necessary, and that kind of explains how certain egregious oversights occurred. Prep for Challenger's launch was a months-long process that began in 1984 and included 37 weeks of crew training. In fact, the day of the disaster wasn't the original launch date. After a flight readiness review on January 15th, launch times and dates were changed multiple times to account for the possibilities of aborted landings and the best time to view Halley's Comet, which, along with deploying the Spartan satellite, was a big part of Challenger's mission. The mission date was pushed back several times, and NASA eventually landed on the launch date of January 22, 1986. The story gets more complicated as delays plagued the mission in the days leading up to its eventual launch. That particular January was exceptionally cold, and with temperatures dropping well below freezing, it was clear that Challenger would be launching in temperatures that no shuttle had ever launched in before.
Even though we understood that we could have a catastrophic failure, NASA wanted to have increased number of launches.
Launch was pushed back from the 26th to the 27th because of weather concerns, and on the 27th, Challenger got very close to leaving the launch pad. The Challenger crew was ready on the morning of January 27th, and according to NASA records, everything was going according to plan. Shuttle preparations began at 12:30 a.m., and after waking up at 5:07 a.m., the crew was strapped into their assigned positions in the shuttle at 7:56 a.m. About an hour later, Challenger's crew alerted control to a door ajar signal. The problem was with an exterior hatch. After the ground crew secured the door, they couldn't remove the exterior handle. The screws that held it in place were frozen. Over the course of 2 hours, ground crews struggled to remove the hatch handle with screwdrivers, a drill, and a hacksaw. And by the time they finally managed to get it off, the crew had been sitting in place for 5 hours, and the launch window had passed.
I thought, gee, this is more like watching a rerun of the Three Stooges than launching a space shuttle.
Kennedy Shuttle Chief Bob Seek issued a statement saying, "It was just not our day. Our plan is to recycle and go for Tuesday morning." The Challenger disaster came very close to not happening, and if it had been up to engineers from Morton Thiokol, it wouldn't have. Morton Thiokol is the company that made the O-rings that were ultimately blamed for the accident. On January 27th at around 1 p.m., NASA reached out to Thiokol to ask whether the cold could cause problems. Management spoke among themselves, convened with engineers by 2:30 p.m., and at 5:45 they conferenced with NASA to recommend scrubbing the launch. After more discussion, another conference was called for 8:45 p.m. Engineer Roger Bougele argued that the O-rings weren't designed to function in the kind of freezing weather Florida had been experiencing.
There was not one positive statement for launch ever made in that room.
Simply put, the O-ring is a rubber gasket that seals in hot gases produced during solid fuel launches. When the rubber gets too cold, it's not flexible enough to seal completely, and launching with improperly set O-rings could mean leakage and ultimately disaster. On the basis of engineer recommendations, Thiokol head stated that no launch should be undertaken in temperatures below previously tested conditions of 53 degrees Fahrenheit. That was their stance until 10:30 p.m. Arguments over the safety concerns created by the temperature were going nowhere when contractor Morton Thiokol and NASA ended their conference to discuss matters further and reconvene. When they did, it was to make recommendations that would doom the Challenger and crew. The teleconference picked up again at 11 p.m.
Bougele would later explain, "It is hard to understand how those at NASA and Marshall could have thought the Challenger flight ready unless they presumed that unless the engineers could show that the flight would fail, then it would succeed."
It's all about us in the end now. I ain't out here making friends now. Hit them with a turnaround if they want to see how it pans out. I'm just trying to be a champion, trying to leave behind a legacy. MVPs in the ambience, but they champion me. I'm always gonna put in the work. I'm just trying to be a champion. I'm always gonna put in the work. MVPs in the ambience. I'm always gonna put in the work. I'm just trying to be a champion. I'm always gonna put in the work. MVP, but they I'm always gonna put in the work. I'm just trying to be a champion. Friends, this is great. Fun book written, and I got lucky. So, talking about this American, and this is how short experience, how changing. It's almost like it's pulling out of custody entirely. And there's a reason for this. And when you realize what's happening, it's really good. So, you make things if you look, there's some photos and frames and some photographs up close, and notice that things like this is the photos of the frame of this, that's the school teacher. And this is what you thinking about him and what could he have done to deserve that. I didn't see the very beginning of it. I thought maybe he'd try to hit a policeman or something. In the above entitled action, find the defendant, Lawrence M. Powell, not guilty of the crime of assault by force likely to produce great bodily injury and with a deadly weapon.
What does this really show, Yogi?
Racism, and also it shows me the fact that the police can get away with anything.
We have no way else way to get our frustration out. Because we already at the bottom. You know, what else can we do? None but violence.
We have injustice in the criminal justice system. And it's not just George Floyd. You look like you didn't matter.
One of O.J.'s friends read a letter written by Simpson.
It appeared to us that it was a suicide note. And at that point, we decided to get in the helicopter and take a look at canyons and see if we can find O.J.
Veteran pilot and reporter Bob Turr has covered virtually every major L.A. news story from the air. His aircraft was one of a squadron of news choppers that would document O.J.'s run.
Hi, Mr. Charles. Yeah, I think I just saw the pictures on the 5 freeway, and there was is that indoors? And I got the license plate of the white Broncos 3D8Y503. And we like, look out of here, and he like stared us down like he was dead.
That 911 call helped police zero in on the vehicle Simpson was riding.
And within a matter of minutes, we were overhead. We found him, the police found him, and at first there was one patrol unit, and within a minute, there were literally 20 patrol units behind him.
Simpson was in the back of the vehicle. Driving was his longtime pal, Al Cowlings, who also called 911.
I have O.J. in the car, okay? Where are you? Please, I'm coming up to 5 freeway, okay? Right now, we all okay, but you gotta tell us now, so you can start call. He's still alive, but he got a gun to his head. He's gonna put his mother. Let me get him to the house.
During the low-speed pursuit, the motorcade would travel some 60 miles, going through 2 counties on 3 freeways.
It was an incredible sight. Thousands of people lined up along the side of the road, waving and trying to give O.J. Simpson support. And what we were watching on live television was almost like a funeral for a fallen friend.
This was one time when bullets rained down to numbers and crews in these countries. Quick hearing from hearts of law enforcement. Heroin 44 Minnesota captured news coverage, broadcasting the unfolding chaos to a nation of disbelief. Inside the terrified hostages cowered in fear as their lives hung in the balance, while residents of the surrounding area sought refuge for the coming of a profound sense of impunity. The sheer intensity of the situation left both police and civilians grappling with palpable fear as the perpetrator seemed unstoppable. This is the North Hollywood shooting. Born in 1970, Larry Eugene Coates Jr. experienced turbulent life. His father, Philip Sr., frequently drew the attention of law enforcement when he was involved in small criminal activity.
February 1997. This is the case that would change the rules forever. Officers find themselves against a fully automatic modified AK-47 with armor piercing bullets
unleash a barrage of ammunition unlike anything police have ever dealt with. Outgunned officers take cover where they can, behind parked cars, behind buildings. But all the cover provides is a veil. The gunmen's powerful bullets tear through concrete and metal and find their targets. Police return fire, but their 9mm bullets only chip away at the building. The gunmen are unfazed. They continue to launch 10 rounds per second at everything in sight. This reporter is caught in the crossfire as armor-piercing slugs ricochet past his head. Helicopters record the mayhem. They too become targets. Police respond quickly, clearing the area of civilians. Then, the gunmen begin their escape. One robber drives a getaway car. The other strolls alongside as a sweeper, clearing the path of anyone that might stop them. The cop's aim doesn't matter. The suspect's body armor repels the smaller ammunition easily. Police have to act, and they know just what to do. Hit the local gun store and even the odds by obtaining high-powered weapons.
We heard the police were up against perpetrators with body armor in which their normal weapons could not penetrate, and they need this in firepower. We loaned them 5 of these rifles, basically a civilian version of the M16 automatic rifle.
Meanwhile, the gunmen show no signs of slowing down. Trapped officers wait nervously as a gunfire approaches. But now officers are returning from the gun store. When the driver sees the decked-out police arrive, he hits the accelerator, leaving his partner behind. True honor among thieves. The other gunman is trapped. Down to a pistol, he continues to shoot at police, not caring what happens. His gun gets shot from his hand, and with the police closing in, the suspect has nowhere to go. A block away, the driver searches for a tougher car, one sturdy enough to ram through any more police resistance. This pickup will do just fine. As the robber calmly transfers his gear to the truck, other civilians continue to drive by unaware. Police know that if he gets rolling again with that firepower still at his side, he may be unstoppable. He sees the officers coming. He bails, preparing to deal with them the same way he's dealt with everyone else. But he's in for a surprise. This is a 5-point.
tan hermoso como otras pasadas, como Hawái, Cancún, el orgullo para mí significa mucho. Mario, quiero dar primero gracias. Poder compartir estos momentos al lado de ustedes es un honor y un placer. Más que nada, enseñarte a la persona que soy. Y más que nada, espero que te diviertas. Las ganas de ir a la persona. Me encantó. Te amo, Mario. Más que nada, nada más y nada menos que el rollo. Aquí crecí yo, no por nada, pero quiero que se sientan orgullosos ustedes como yo me siento del rollo. Arriba el rollo, muchachos. Y estos cohetes son en memoria de mi abuelo. Gracias, Mario, por acompañarme. Espero que te guste este video. Y esas son las iglesias donde yo jugaba, donde un tiempo fue monaguillo, el Oscar y toda nuestra resto de tu familia que hicimos y vinimos a misa. Ya les conté yo muchas historias. Quiero que sepan que estoy tan agradecido por poder traerlas a mi chiquito grullo. Y tal vez ustedes no lo vean como yo, pero el grullo tiene las puertas abiertas. Aquí te traje, Mavi, y cuando te conocí me encantó que no pusiste gestos ni nada, y me encanta que vayas a la tumba de mi abuelo y le traigas su corona y todo. Te lo agradezco de verdad, de corazón, por darnos nuestra hija. Está creciendo y se está poniendo bien hermosa. Te doy gracias, te debo 1,000,000 porque la estás creciendo a la antigua. Un poquita brava la caraja, pero te agradezco de corazón. Échale ganas, Mavi, te quiero un chingo. Gracias, Mavi. Aquí están unos covarrubias donde nos prestaron un caballo para que nuestro destino y nuestro amor creciera. Yo aquí crecí, Mavi, yo aquí agarraba caballos día y noche. Y gracias por ser tan buena conmigo, y tan linda y tan hermosa. Y gracias por darme la oportunidad de traerte a ti con mi hija. Y acuérdate, Mavi, que eres mi reina, eres mi razón y eres mi verdad. Te amo con todo mi corazón. Y arriba el grullo. Esta es tu casa, igual que mi casa, pero quiero que siempre recuerdes que eres mi familia, eres mi razón de vivir y ser feliz. Gracias por traer a nuestra hija. Agradecer que la tengas unida al lado de mi familia y de mi padrino Chu y Amparo, que conozca de dónde viene y de dónde somos. Pero más que nada, Mavi, se está poniendo bien grande nuestra hija, y más pronto que nada va a crecer, y sabemos los dos que estamos creciendo bien, que va a ser nuestro orgullo y nuestro placer verla crecer y hacerse mujer. Me encanta que desde la
El Grullo Jalisco, cuyo nombre procede de la abundancia del pasto, ahora cuenta con un monumento divinamente claro. Y algo que es muy representativo del Grullo Jalisco es esta fuente que representa la grulla. ¿Y qué tal pasear en bicicleta y realizar sus actividades cotidianas? Porque esto es algo muy tradicional en este encantador pueblo. Y obviamente no podemos dejar de mencionar los antojitos clásicos pueblerinos. ¿Y qué tal saborear un delicioso taco y comer tortillitas hechas a mano? Evita ser como era la vida de antes.
complacency, or even apathy about both the reality and the potential effects of Y2K.
By the end of the 90s, many of us were happy slaves to our computers. But our new masters had a trick they'd forgotten to tell us about.
The basic idea on Y2K was that for convenience, all these computer programs, when it came to do dates, you only needed 2 numbers. Why use 4 numbers when you only need 2? And then they recognized, what date is a computer going to think it is when we get to 2000?
One simple date change for man, one major screw-up for computer.
At the stroke of midnight, January 1st, 2000, elevators may stop. Heat may vanish. Credit cards and ATMs may cease to function. Airplanes and trains may come to a halt.
People were terrified the world was going to end.
This is not one of the summer movies where you can close your eyes during the scary parts.
With nearly everything in our economy run by computers, the prospect of a digital meltdown is too huge to contemplate.
I was worried because the whole computer game was new to us, and I was a little ignorant.
We didn't know what we didn't know. And many thought what we didn't know was going to hurt us.
I've got a revolver right now, but I wanted something more.
That was a Dragon's Breath shell. It can shoot a 4,000-degree flame 300 feet. It's also the most popular ammunition among Y2K customers at KGS Guns and Ammo.
There was a fear. Everything's in the internet. Everything's in computers. And we're going to lose it all. And Jesus is coming back.
With pre-millennium tensions growing, the president appoints a crisis management expert to prevent a Y2K meltdown.
8 to 10% of the population were fairly confident that this was going to be an apocalypse. The president called me one night and said, here's an office and an assistant, and don't let the world stop.
If you're a millennial or older, you probably remember the mass panic that descended on the world at the end of the 20th century. The simply named Y2K problem threatened to destroy computing as we knew it. Newscasters predicted that banks would collapse, hospitals would fail, planes would fall out of the sky, and anything connected to a computer, and really anything powered by electricity, was expected to stop working, unless immediate actions were taken to prevent the dreaded millennium bug. The problem at the time was fairly straightforward. Most programs written by that point represented the year with just the last 2 digits. 1998 was represented as 98, 1999 as 99, and so on. The reason for this dates back to the earliest days of computing in the 1960s, when the cost for memory was as high as $1 per bit. Translated to today, a single iPhone's 4-gigabyte memory would cost $32 billion, or $250 billion when adjusted for inflation. So anytime programmers could use fewer bits, it was immensely cost-saving. If you could represent the date and save $2 every time, the choice to use just the last 2 digits was a no-brainer. But fast forward 40 years, and now it's New Year's Eve in 1999, and your alarm clock, microwave, train timetable, and life support machine are all about to think that the next day is January 1st, 1900. And this was expected to cause widespread crashes, ranging from inconvenient to totally devastating. If a plane takes off on autopilot in 1999, how does it know to land in the year 2000 if its onboard computer says 1900? At the time, it was kind of a ridiculous way to look at computer processing. But when facing a global worst-case scenario, people were pretty freaked out that planes would just start to fall out of the sky. As a result of the panic, a huge effort to patch and update computer systems was enacted.
see with the very beginning of it, I thought maybe he'd try to hit a policeman or something.
In the above entitled action, find the defendant, Lawrence M. Powell, not guilty of the crime of assault by force likely to produce great bodily injury and with a deadly weapon.
What does this really show, Yogi?
Racism, and also it shows me the fact that the police can get away with anything.
We have no way else way to get our frustration out. Because we already at the bottom, you know, what else can we do? Nothing but violence.
Can we get along?
We went to jail back and forth and killing, and also watching those get killed. I mean, it can take a toll on your mind, take a toll on your mind. You just stand right next to a brother and just see him with his head blown off.
We have injustice in the criminal justice system. And it's not just George Floyd. You look back even in modern...
One of O.J.'s friends read a letter written by Simpson.
It appeared to us that it was a suicide note. And at that point, we decided to get in the helicopter and take a look at canyons and see if we can find O.J.
Veteran pilot and reporter Bob Turr has covered virtually every major L.A. news story from the air. His aircraft was one of a squadron of news choppers that would document O.J.'s run.
Pilot Patrol. Yeah, I think I just saw O.J. Simpson on the 528, and there was heading north, and I got the license plate of the white Broncos 3D8Y503. And we like, look out of here, and he like stared us down like he was dead.
That 911 call helped police zero in on the vehicle Simpson was riding.
And within a matter of minutes, we were overhead. We found him, the police found him, and at first there was one patrol unit, and within a minute, there were literally 20 patrol units behind him.
Simpson was in the back of the vehicle. Driving was his longtime pal, Al Cowlings, who also called 911.
This is MC. I have O.J. in the car. Okay, where are you? Please, I'm coming up to 5 freeways. Okay, right now we all okay, but you gotta tell him to start calling. He's still alive, but he got a blood to his head. It's a little bit smaller. Let me take him to the house.
During the low-speed pursuit, the motorcade would travel some 60 miles, going through 2 counties on 3 freeways.
It was an incredible sight. Thousands of people lined up along the side of the road, waving and trying to give O.J. Simpson support. And what we were watching on live television was almost like a funeral for a fallen friend.
This was one time when the